I'm really excited today to welcome Dr. Rachel Barton to our show. Dr. Barton, would you like to tell the Sci Girls a little bit about yourself to begin?
Sure. I'm really excited to be here with everybody. I am a veterinarian that works in sort of a new field of veterinary medicine called shelter medicine, and I also work in forensic veterinary sciences. But I've been a veterinarian for about 20 years. Before working in shelter medicine, I worked in private practice for about 7 years. And just like you think of when you take your pet into the family vet to have their routine preventative care, or if they're sick, that's sort of where I got my start. But about 14 years ago, I moved over into the emerging field of shelter medicine and fell in love with a whole new type of veterinary medicine.
So how do you explain what you do to the general public?
Well, a lot of people don't really understand shelter medicine. They certainly know about animal shelters, and they know that we take care of homeless animals, that we help people rehome their pets, and that we try to find new homes for pets that have been displaced for some reason. So we do a lot of preventative health care to keep our shelter animals safe. And basically what we're doing is we're taking the small animal diseases that we learned about in vet school, and then we're taking the herd health principles that we learned about when we're studying large animals. So I have, a lot of things that I've learned about cows or chickens and maintaining a population of animals. But then I have to apply all the small animal diseases where we're normally in the small animal world are focusing on individual animals. So I take my small animal diseases and my large animal principles and I mix them all up, and I take care of my herd of cats or my herd of dogs, if you will, that's living at the shelter. For the forensic side of things, I'm helping animal control and law enforcement with investigations for animal-related crimes. So that's typically like animal abuse is what we're looking at, animal abuse and neglect. And so what I do with them is I help them look for evidence, I help them interpret the evidence, and then I also help the court of law. So if it goes to trial, I help the judge and the jury interpret and understand the evidence so that they can make a decision about the case.
That's amazing. I always love hearing your description of that, Rachel. It never gets old. The next question is, how did you become interested? It's a two-part. How did you become interested in veterinary medicine, and then in particular, this new form of shelter medicine?
Well, the question on how I became interested in veterinary medicine is a better question for my mom, because she tells me that when I was 3, we got a new kitten. And I remember getting the new kitten, and that we took the new kitty to the vet, and she got her first set of shots. And on the drive home from the vet with that kitten, I told my mom that I was going to be a kitty doctor when I grew up. And I honestly don't remember ever not wanting to be a veterinarian. And I know so many people decide early on, or when they're young, they have an interest in veterinary medicine, because what's cooler than getting to work with puppies and kitties, help animals, and it's science, and science is amazing and awesome. So puppies, kitties, and science all rolled into one. Who wouldn't want to do that, right? But then shelter medicine, I have always had an interest in public health, which is basically herd health. It's population medicine, population health. And I had an opportunity that was sort of at the right time in my personal life too, to make a change and move into a new position. The city of Tallahassee was looking to make some changes in the way that they ran the shelter, and they wanted to hire a veterinarian to come in and help with doing spays and neuters, to help with preventative health care, to help with providing sick emergency care for the animals at the shelter too. And so I took a chance on it, on this new thing that really we didn't even know what shelter medicine was going to turn into more than a decade ago. And I've just found my calling, getting to help animals that nobody else is helping, getting to advocate for the wellness and the health of not just the animals at the shelter, but the animals in the whole community. It's been an amazing ride. Since starting at the shelter, I've gone back and got my master's degree in shelter medicine at the University of Florida. I've received additional training. I got my certification in forensics. So it's been fabulous. And one of the things that I love about veterinary medicine, or really having any career in science, is it's given me a foundation that I can use no matter what changes happen in the world around me. When I graduated from vet school 20 years ago, actually 21 years ago now, vets didn't work in shelters. Like, it was unheard of. And the knowledge and education that I gained from my veterinary degree has helped me move into this new job that we couldn't have even imagined when I first got the degree.
That's great. So the next question is, what advice do you have for middle school and high school girls who might be watching and they're interested in a field in STEM?
Well, one of the first things I think about is boys. And I know that shouldn't always come up at this day and age, but I remember I always loved math and science classes, that they were where I was comfortable. Poetry, creative writing, I wasn't comfortable there. I was comfortable in the certainty and the facts. And I was comfortable with the uncertainty and the hypotheses too, but still, I was comfortable in the math and science world. But sometimes I would be silly, and I would not let people know how smart I was or what my interests were, especially if it was a boy that I liked, because, I wanted the boy to like me back. So one thing I would say is be true to yourself and don't worry so much about what the boys think, because if they, like they say, if they matter, if a boy really has a problem with what you're saying, then he doesn't really matter, and that's not the right boy for you. So I say stick with what you love. Explore the possibilities too. There are so many careers available in math and science. And like I said, I have a career that didn't even exist when I was in middle school or high school. So keep exploring and find what you love, and do what you love. And don't let a bad grade in a class deter you. I certainly struggled sometimes in math, especially as I got to algebra 2, pre-calc. I learned I had to study harder and do extra problems than just what was assigned by the teacher to get through. But don't let that stop you.
That's great advice. The next question we have is, have you ever had a setback in your career? And if so, how did you overcome it?
Well, I did have a setback, and it did center around my math classes. I really struggled my junior year of high school with my math classes. And part of that was I just hadn't figured out the right studying technique for me. And so I had to ask for help. And that was probably one of the scariest things that I ever did, was going to my math teacher and admitting that I was struggling with the class. And she helped me figure out how I learned math and how I needed to study. And then things got much better once I figured out my learning style. So that was one of the scariest things I've ever done, was going up to my teacher and telling her that I needed help and admitting that I was struggling with the way I had been studying before.
Wow, thanks for sharing that. The next question we have is, how has COVID-19 affected your job?
COVID-19 has been one of the most challenging experiences of my career. It's also been one of the most invigorating and inspiring experiences. We in shelter medicine and in veterinary medicine are trained for this type of situation. We learn about disease outbreaks, pandemics, about how to manage, how to implement changes based on what you know, when sometimes you don't know a lot. We have coronaviruses in the veterinary world, so there's a lot of knowledge that we already walked into this virus with. And as they were learning new things about COVID-19, a lot of the veterinarians were going, yeah, that makes sense, because in dogs it would do this, or in cats the coronavirus would do that. So there's a lot of things that make sense to us. But one of the biggest challenges is that veterinary medicine doesn't allow for a lot of personal space. There are things that we have to do for our patients that require us to be less than 6 feet apart from each other. So we are having to adapt and change how we do business. We're limiting the amount of time that we're spending together. We've had to change a lot of what we do. And our human side of medicine, a lot of the things that we use are things that they use. And so we are no longer able to get some of the protective equipment that we would use, some of the drugs that we would use, because they are either being used more on the human side, or even the things that are used to make those drugs are being diverted to make the human versions of the drugs. So we don't have them. So we're having to research, we're having to find new ways of doing things. And that's kind of exciting as a scientist, even though the reason we're having to do it isn't a happy reason. We are having to meet these new challenges, and that is invigorating because it's getting us out of the norm. And I think that's one of the things that we love in science, is that we are always asking new questions and meeting new challenges.
Well, that's all I have for you, Rachel. Is there anything you wanted to add or any final comments that you wanted to make?
I'm just so thankful to be here today. I love Sci Girls. I love everything that you stand for. And I'm so honored that even though we're not in person the way we usually are in the summers, that you are including me in this exciting time where you're being scientists. You're saying we can't do it the way we did. So how are we going to do it? And you're making it awesome, even though it's different.
Oh, thank you so much, and thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.